You don't have to have your camera on for that. It's just your voice is good. And then, um, yeah, you don't, let me make sure I'm sharing my screen so that it makes sense on YouTube. Okay, let me share my screen.
Okay. Hello.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. So picking up where we left off and just having one more example of the rapid sketch brainstorming technique and which is also known as the Crazy Eights. I feel like this design that you came up with for your fitness online app is good. So talk us through again, just real brief, like the 8 design ideas that you came up with your Crazy Eight sketch. And what is our how might we question? So our how may we question is what? How may
And
we
make how might we make it easier for clients to view their stats?
okay, so let's talk about those 8 solutions centered around that question.
Okay, so in the first box, I have their name at the top, and then you can see your weight
Mhm.
as a big weight, then just a big number. And then in the boxes underneath, it's like weight, body fat, BMI, all of the stats, but it's all listed right there.
Okay.
Um, so everything is listed.
And then the
But
second idea.
and then the second idea is so it has stats at the top, and then it has all of the icons going across the top as a bar, but you can swipe left or right. So it's like a sliding bar. And then
Mhm.
whichever one you click on, it shows the graph. And then it shows like helpful tips based off if you're trending up or trending down.
Mhm.
And
Nice.
then, oh, thank you. And then the third one is stats, but this one has before and after pictures. So it'll show a before picture. And if you click on the before picture, you'll go down and it'll show you like all that information based off the timing in that photo.
Okay.
And then when you click on the specific icon that you want to see, it'll have, if it's the standard for low, normal, or high, or um, underweight, normal, overweight,
Mhm.
things like that.
Okay.
And then for the fourth one, it is this is like the user flow in here. So you would
Mhm.
click on stats and
Mhm.
then all of the icons will pop up. And then you would click on one of the weight icons and then it'll show the same thing like low, normal, high if you click on BMI. And then if you click on like weight, it'll show under, normal, over, or obese.
Mhm.
And then two won't be shown at the same time, but if you click on it, it'll be either or.
Based on the content and the low, medium, high is what the standard is. So you can have like a gauge between where you are and what the standard is.
Right.
Okay. And
Okay.
then the next one, the third one, I think this one was cut off. I don't have it open still, but just go ahead and explain how this one works. I think
Okay.
that
So this
close the
is
design.
um tracking and it has all the icons in a column. So it's two columns. Well, the icons are in the first column. So weight, BMI, all the information is in one column. And then right next to it, it actually shows the graph of your trending, either the weight or water weight or, things like that. And I put some enjoyables in there. So if
This
it's
is
like,
this looks like the
yeah,
better way to see it. Okay.
oh yeah. So I put some enjoyables in there as far as if your weight was going down, it'll be like stars and, spark highlights around it.
Mhm.
And if the trending is going up or in the opposite direction of what it's supposed to be, then it'll get like, exclamation points and
Like a
um
warning to let you know, like you need to pay attention to this area.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then what was your right here?
And then right here is the measurements for the body.
Hmm.
Um and you would do before is on the left and after is on the right. And
Hmm.
then just body measurements right there with a, person that's representing the client
Right.
or the customer, the consumer, or whoever. And then
Mhm.
under that, we had said that we were going to put in those icons as well, so they can click on it and still see the information. So it'd be like a chart with weight, BMI, water, body fat.
Like this chart right here, or
Yeah,
this one.
like the first one.
This one, okay.
Okay.
And then the seventh idea from your crazy eight.
And then the seventh idea is all charts, all graphs, um, showing on there. So to be a graph of the weight. So the graph and then weight for each one. And then it'll have things like if you hover over it, it'll pop up like, oh, congrats, you lost 10 pounds. 10
Mhm.
pounds. And then like again, if it's not good, it'll be okay, you know, alarm. And then at
Mhm.
the bottom, I wanted to put down, contact your coach.
Like under here,
Yep.
right? Okay. And then will it be like an email, or they can email, phone number, both? So
Yeah.
it'll be like,
Well, actually, I want it to be like the chat.
oh, okay. So they can like instant message.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then the last but not least,
Mhm.
this one was, kind of fun. So I have like the stars and they're kind of like animated a little bit. And then you click on it, it'll pop up to see the graph and everything like the second one on the top.
Right. So you can like see your stats depending on what star you click on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is an awesome example of a crazy eight where we took, the how might we make the user experience easy, enjoyable, useful, usable, um, for an equitable, right, for the end user to view their stats. So where we had eight blocks, 1 minute a block, and we did an 8 minute timer, and you just rapid fire or rapid sketch, come up with eight different ideas. So everything that we do is always a collaborative, it's always a collective, which is why all of us created sketches. And then typically what will happen is you'll look at the teams, you may have 5 or 10, however many people are a part of that session. You have a bunch of rapid sketches that you're looking at, and you kind of pull pieces from each one, and it becomes a collaborative effort. So maybe, for example, like the team agrees that this experience is awesome right here, where we have the before and after pictures, the graph, and then we have the comparison. So, where you size up in comparison to what's normal. And then let's just say, like, if we were to look at another sketch, this is still your sketch, but another sketch that a team member brought up, let's say we want to combine actually seeing the user here too. So we may take a piece from another crazy eight and say, I like this component. Can we combine the component of actually seeing the client's body inside of this view somewhere? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So go ahead.
Mhm. Oh, I was gonna say I like the suggestion that Janella made when it was like a 3D of your body that was on
Hmm.
there. And then
Hmm.
maybe it could show, like the before, and then the after with the smaller body. Or,
Hmm.
what it's looking like.
Yeah, see, and that's how it is. It's like you have just different ideas and it becomes a collaborative that comes together for that one solution. So this was a really good exercise with that. So that's called the rapid sketch brainstorming process. So let's look at some of the other brainstorming processes outside of rapid sketch, also known as crazy eights. So some other ones are, let me pop this down. This was Janelle's. I'm gonna revisit later. Um, so yeah, so we just reviewed this one. Going over to current. So some other brainstorming techniques are competitive audits. Now, a competitive audit is when designers want new ideas about how to solve a problem. They can also audit their competitors by asking questions such as, what products do they offer? And we kind of did this last week. What are those product strengths and areas for improvement? So in addition to gathering that information from the user, because during our interview process, we ask the user, what do they like about the other person, well, the other competitors' products? What do we like about that experience? We also can go through and gauge ourselves. So it's also on us to go and look at other competitors who exist in the space and write down what we feel are their strengths and weaknesses. Bring that information back together to the table and talk about it as a team. Because by answering questions like these, designers can get inspiration for their own designs, identifying gaps in the market, and find evidence for what designs have already worked and not. With audits, designers can save time, money, and effort by learning from competitors who have already designed similar products or tried to solve similar problems. So in other words, there's a lot of situations where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So there may be some things that competitors are doing and they're doing those things really well. And it's like, why not incorporate that and the design solution that you're designing for? Does that make sense? Does everyone follow me with that?
Yes.
So like, for example, what can you list 3 competitors who you may go and look at? We did this before, but so Janella, for landscaping, can you remember at least 1 or 2 other places that you could think of off the top of your head that you would look at as a competitor?
True Green.
Yeah, True Green to do a competitive audit. Yeah. Angela, what about in that fitness space? Is there a competitor you can think of that you may go and explore their product for a competitive audit? Angela? Okay, I don't know if she's still having connection issues, but okay, you guys get the point of that. Scamper. Scamper is another brainstorming technique. So the Scamper technique is designers use this. Scamper is a technique used to brainstorm changes and alternatives to ideas and designs. So each letter of the acronym stands for a different action that designers can apply to their designs. So the S stands for substitute, right? So substituting elements for other elements. Kind of what we did when we were going through the previous design. So one example of substitution, let's look back at this design here. Let me see if I can pull back this one. So when we were talking through this, and we talked about, so here, so Angela kind of did substitution on her own. Because in this example, we have like a grid that's more like a table layout that lists weight, BMI, body fat, water, whatever else. But then the substitution was to possibly display it this way, where we have individual blocks that represent the same thing. So like another team member may have said like, okay, well, we have this design where it's laid out as a table or a grid. How about also exploring or entertaining the idea of displaying this same information in individual blocks? So that would be an example of substitution. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what the S stands for. Uh-oh. The C, combining elements into one. So when we go back over this example, do you remember what the example was? I kind of suggested something, and you actually suggested something that was an example of combining elements into one. So that was here when we talked about taking this body image idea and combining it here, right? So we were like, well, what if in addition, what if we utilize the 3D body scan or 3D body image, and then also represented with this element. That's an example of taking components from the Crazy Eight, like from different team members, and combining elements that people thought of and making it one. So that's the C. So in full, it's substitute, combine, adapt, right? So adaptation, to adapt maybe there's something that we're already using that we can pull into ours. Maybe when we do the competitive audit, there are some other things that we feel like we can adapt into our design. Modify, an example of a modification would be when we looked, I remember us having a modification conversation. What was it? Do you remember what it was for your design? Right here, when we talked about this design and a modification suggestion that I suggested was, can we have the standard always present? So that would be a modification. So if we were to choose this design as a team, a modification may be, in addition to showing the weight and the grid, can we also show the standard? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then put to another use is the P part for Scamper. So put to another use. We didn't do that one, but what would you say would be an example of an element that we brainstorm and maybe we can have multiple uses for it? Looking at this design, is there anything you can think of that could possibly have multiple uses?
Well, when you said to multiple uses, I would say the grid,
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. In what way?
like as to, okay, wait a minute. You mean multiple uses or,
Well, because remember, this is just a brainstorming session. So all we're doing is taking what we have and just exploring a possibility of using it in a different way. So
oh,
like, just like if we were brainstorming, what would be a possibility? Like up here where you have the slider,
mm-hmm.
and you can slide between like weight, body fat. Maybe it could be possible that we use the slider as before and after pictures too. So maybe it's like you can slide and see, um, you
Okay.
know, just anything. It's just really just spitballing, throwing out everything that comes to your head.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like looking at the elements and thinking, is there another way that this could possibly be used? Right. So that's one technique. Um, Going back here. Eliminate. So maybe sometimes, so as we're brainstorming and we're going through the Scamper technique and we're looking at everyone's designs, there may be some things that we take out, right? So we all come together with our Crazy Eights and with our rapid sketches, and we look and we're like, well, maybe I don't know, what's something, this is so good, I really wouldn't eliminate anything. But just for the sake of discussion, let's just say if we said, well, maybe we could remove, man, I don't want to remove anything. Let's say if we said maybe we could remove the image here and just show the stats. It's just an idea, right? It doesn't mean we're going to do it, but that's just an example of looking at a design and thinking possibly, well, what if we remove this? What does that look like? Is what the
Okay.
conversation is. And rearrange. So during Scamper, you may look at the design and say, and just because it's a part of the process doesn't mean that it has to happen. It just means it's a consideration. So like if we're looking at a Rapid 8 or looking at a design and everything is critical information, we still completed the process because we thought about it. So we went through the Scamper process, we looked over it, and we were like, is there anything will we eliminate? Like, no, we still checked that off. We still did it. We just came to the conclusion that there's nothing we would eliminate. You see what I'm saying? It's really just all about the process. And then rearrange. Looking at each one of the designs or the ideas, is there anything we would possibly rearrange? Right. So I don't know, maybe a possible brainstorm would be, what about if we move the bar of what standard to the top? Just ideas. What's some other ideas that you think that we could implement. And honestly, Janella, the rearranging will help you come up with your 8 because it may be the same design that Angela already did, but maybe just explore rearranging some of the elements. That may help you move past your brain, what do you call it? Your creative block. Does that help you any, the idea of rearranging?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, think about that when we come back around to you. And it all, you gotta remember, like, one important thing is this is just so free. It's so free. It's so non-stress. It's literally just throwing out ideas during this phase. So you don't have to like feel stiff or nervous about what if it's not a good idea or, this is already perfect. I don't want to break it. We're not married to anything. We just want to go through the process. So yeah, that's the Scamper. So Scamper is another brainstorming technique. So again, Scamper stands for substituting elements, combining elements, looking at alternatives, adapting, modifying, putting to another use, eliminating, and rearranging. Does that make sense? Does anyone have questions about that?
No.
Okay. Another brainstorming technique is, I think that's it. Let me come up. So one thing to talk about or to point out, let me do it this way so you guys can see it. So one thing to keep in mind when we talk about brainstorming techniques is that they're collaborative techniques. You'll hear me say collaboration over and over and over again. But the whole point is we're a team and it's always good to get as many ideas as possible because that's how you really come up with an awesome idea. Because there's no individual person who's gonna think about everything, right? So I'm not gonna have every idea. You're not gonna have every idea. No one's gonna have every possible solution. So just getting everyone's input helps. So before launching a collaborative partnership or working session, effective designers or design team typically ensure that they've answered all of the crucial questions, such as who will be involved, right? So when we're kind of like gearing up for this brainstorming session, we kind of want to know, should developers be involved? Should stakeholders be involved? What's going to be their roles? Like, are they just there to listen? Are they there to give us development? Are they there to give us development guidance that we may not necessarily have? Right? Are the stakeholders there to kind of just make sure that we're staying on track with what the objective is? So you can have, during the brainstorming session, you can have a room that's not just UX designers, it may be developers, stakeholders, business owners, and designers. So it's just kind of like, okay, who do we want to be involved in this process when we look at a challenge? The other thing that we consider is, where will the collaboration happen? Will it be in person or virtual? During COVID, almost everything was virtual, right? But also, it's just not a COVID thing. Sometimes it's also a budget consideration. So if you work for a company that's a larger company, so say for example, the company I work for, some business stakeholders are in Europe because we have presence in the UK as well. So the collaboration, we may need a stakeholder in Europe to be a part of the process, but it may not financially make sense for us to fly them here or for us to fly there when it's a brainstorming session and we really could do it via Teams or some virtual tool. Does that make sense? Yes, no?
Yes.
Are you guys still following me? Okay.
Yes.
Why is the collaboration happening? What's the end goal? How will the collaboration happen and what tools and processes will we use? When I say what tools and processes will we use, what do you think I'm asking? What tools are we assessing? We're determining whether or not we're going to use what tools in brainstorming. If you had to guess, what would you think the discussion is centered around when we talk about tools?
the method of brainstorming. So like the
Mhm.
rapid sketch or the scammer technique.
Scamper, yeah.
Or scamper,
That would be,
yes.
yeah, that would be the processes. Yeah, yeah, we will be determining what process we're going to use. And then for tools, what tools will we be thinking about? What are the ways that we have brainstormed so far? If you think about it, what tools have we used so far?
Paper, pen.
Yeah, yeah, Figma. That's part of the conversation. So you'll kind of say, okay, this is the problem we're solving for. Let's pull together a brainstorming session. We could just bring our notebooks and our pens. So you may send out a message saying, hey, we kind of want to have a brainstorming session. Everybody just bring pencil and pen. We're going to do a brainstorming session, right? Or there may be an email that goes out that says, hey, everybody, bring your laptops to the conference room. We're going to do a brainstorming session. Make sure you have Figma installed on your laptop. So that's it. It's an example of how that looks. Also, as we go through brainstorming, business requirements are, we always keep business requirements in the forefront. Does anyone remember why we keep business requirements in mind as we go through the design thinking framework or the design thinking process? Because business requirement sets what type of parameters for us? Does anyone remember what the business requirements are?
No, I can't remember.
Okay, so the business requirements come from who?
The client, our client, or
Yeah,
whoever hired us.
yeah, or the stakeholders. So with that being in mind, if they're stating the requirements to us, what are they expressing to us? The business requirements are what?
They're expressing to us their goals, right?
Yeah, their goals and what else? Business requirements, their
Um,
their budget,
oh yeah, their budget.
yeah, their timeline, like what the deadline is. That's business requirements will state the deadline, the budget, and the objective. So as we're brainstorming, we have to make sure we're staying within those parameters. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that is the brainstorming session, right? So let me just have a real quick recap on that so that we understand. I'm gonna go back. So the types of brains, Angela, can you erase who drew the red line? It says Angela drew the red line. Did Angela draw that red line? Can you erase it if you did? Oh my God, you're drawing more red lines. Do a Command Z or Control Z and erase that, and then can you erase that? Or did Janella do that? Did you draw the red line?
No, I did not. I've been trying to help her get it off.
Man,
Get
I
it
can't
off.
get that one off. Every time I try to get it off, I draw another one. It's because I'm on my phone and I don't know how to.
That's okay. I'm gonna stop there. Okay, I'm gonna stop and come back. So we have rapid sketching. So the brainstorming techniques, the most common, these are not the only, but these are the most common. So the most common are rapid sketching, competitive audits, right? And that's when we look at competitors and see what they're doing, and Scamper. And Scamper stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put into another use, eliminate, and rearrange. So those are the most common brainstorming techniques when we start to tackle a challenge and come up with a solution. And then, like I said, it's always a collaborative effort. In addition to it being a collaborative effort, we also just want to make sure that we always keep business requirements intact. So on that note, I'm going to stop the screen share, and then we're going to come back again and move on to phase 4. Phase 4 is prototyping.